by Hamas terrorists are camping, hoping that the US President Joe Biden, along with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, will work relentlessly to bring back the 200 people who've been held hostage by the Hamas terrorists. And over the course of the next half hour, we get you details. Now, this problem has been compounded by an explosion at a hospital in the Gaza Strip. Now, the Palestinian authorities claim, the Hamas claims that this was an Israeli missile strike, but this is a charge that Israel has denied. But what are the implications of that explosion at a hospital at Gaza Strip? Over the course of the next half hour, we tell you the implications for Palestine, for Israel, and for the world.
Gaza hospital explosion kills hundreds. Hamas and Israel trade charges. Big turning point in this war. Biden gives clean chit to Israel. What next for Israel, Hamas, and the world? India today at the front line of war. Exclusive report from the battle zone.
The situation between Israel and Palestine has deteriorated. It's deteriorated after that Hamas terror attack and, of course, that explosion that took place at a hospital at the Gaza Strip. While the Islamic Jihad and the Hamas, they were quick to claim that this was an Israeli missile strike, a charge that's strongly been denied by Israel, giving evidence that this was perhaps an Islamic Jihad rocket fired at southern Israel that exploded prematurely. The fire on ground was the propellant, according to Israel. The explosion that took place on ground was the explosives that were in the rocket that went off course and exploded. We get you more in this report.
Flames rage. Haunting echoes of sirens fill the air. Patients and bodies rushed from a hospital in Gaza. The ground scattered with school backpacks, blankets, and the remnants of personal belongings. Al-Ahli Hospital was packed with Palestinians seeking shelter from unceasing Israeli airstrikes. It was bombed on Tuesday.
صبيحة اليوم التالي وبكل وقاحة.
On the morning of the second day, the head of hospital, Dr. Meher Ayad, received a phone call from Israeli army to tell him that we warned you yesterday by firing 2 strikes. The only place in the world where you get warned of being hit by strikes is the Gaza Strip. The only place that houses being warned by is through by air strikes.
The Gazan Health Ministry put the toll at 500 or more dead. A figure later revised to hundreds. But the images from the scene revealed the extent of destruction. The Palestinian militant group Hamas blamed it on Israeli airstrikes. Israeli officials denied any role, claiming the hospital bombings was the result of a Hamas rocket misfire.
Israel did not strike the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza. What happened last night is that Palestinian Islamic Jihad fired a rocket from inside the Gaza Strip. It fell short, like many of their rockets, and the shrapnel hit that hospital. The images that we are seeing inside the Gaza Strip of the damage from the hospital are truly shocking, and that is the result of a Palestinian Islamic Jihad war crime, firing rockets from inside densely populated areas and ending up killing their own civilians.
Israeli military released what it called intercepts of a phone call between 2 Hamas operatives discussing the failed rocket that landed on the Gaza hospital.
بقول لك أول مرة بنشوف الصاروخ زي هيك والشظايا هذه فبقول لك تبع الجهاد الصواريخ الجهاد الإسلامي يعني. إيه؟ فهم بقولوا تعاون الجهاد الإسلامي. إنه من عندنا هذا؟ شكله من عندنا
Accusations and counter-accusations aside, this was the deadliest single incident in Gaza in the 10-day-old war triggered by the October 7th assault by Hamas on Israel. Protest erupted across various cities over the hospital bombing, with world powers condemning the incident in one voice.
The scenes from the explosion at a Gaza City hospital are deeply distressing, and it is clear that there has been a devastating loss of life. Every innocent life matters, whether it is Israeli or Palestinian.
Once again, the most vulnerable. This is totally unacceptable. Hospitals are sacrosanct, and they must be protected at all costs. We don't yet know the full scale of this carnage, but what is clear is that the violence and killing must stop at once.
The tragedy has left its mark, a somber reminder of the human cost of conflicts, where places of healing become targets of destruction. Bureau Report, India Today.
On ground zero here in Tel Aviv, all eyes on the US President Joe Biden. Can he intervene? Will that intervention help? Well, he's met Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. They've had a long meeting, and in that meeting, Joe Biden made one thing very clear. Israel had a right to defend itself. He came out very strongly in favor of Israel. He's also said the explosion that took place at the hospital appears to be the work of the other team. But for the families who are here on ground zero in Tel Aviv, the focus is do a deal now, bring the children home. From a child just a couple of months old to a Holocaust survivor more than 85 years old. Hamas terrorists abducted more than 200 people from that entire belt in southern Israel, from Sderot to Kibbutz Be'eri to Kafar Azar to the Rim Festival. From all those places, people were abducted, and families here want their loved ones back and expect the US President Joe Biden to play a role there.
A hug and a handshake, sealing a message of solidarity between the United States and Israel. US President Joe Biden touched down in Israel today at perhaps the most crucial stage of the Hamas conflict, hours after a horrifying bombing of a Gaza hospital that killed over 500. But that did not deter Biden from expressing his strong backing for Israel and even a public statement on who is behind the hospital horror.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whose bonhomie with Biden was visible from the tarmac to the meeting room, thanked Biden for all the support.
First visit of an American president in Israel at a time of war. It is deeply, deeply moving. It speaks to the depth of your personal commitment to the future of the Jewish people and the one and only Jewish state. So I know I speak for all the people of Israel when I say, thank you, Mr. President.
Biden repeated Israel's Hamas-ISIS comparison as well.
Terrorist group Hamas has slaughtered, as has been pointed out, over 1,300 people. And it's not hyperbole to suggest slaughtered. They're committed evils that and atrocities that make ISIS look somewhat more rational.
Biden has yet again reaffirmed his support for Israel, saying their courage was stunning and that he was proud to be in Israel. Biden's visit is heralded as a genuine, heartfelt demonstration of sympathy and a profound expression of commitment from the United States. But also keep in mind that Biden's visit to Israel is an incredibly delicate tightrope walk. With the looming election in the United States, the Israel-Hamas conflict widening into more parts of the Middle East will mean the United States has no choice but to get embroiled. America's role in the ongoing conflict is being closely watched, and so far, Biden has made it crystal clear that his country is 100% backing ally Israel. Bureau Report, India Today.
Some of the most horrifying images from that October 7th terror strike in Israel were from the Nova Music Festival in the southern part of Israel. That is where thousands of youngsters, they came together to enjoy perhaps an evening of great music. There was a camping site there. There was beautiful music that was being made. And this was an open area, of course, not far from the Gaza fence. That's where I was in the evening. And there we saw the most horrifying images of death and destruction. There were 3,000 people there. 300 were massacred by the Hamas terrorists and several abducted. The terrorists had actually come not just in pickup trucks and minivans, also on motorcycles. They abducted people and took them back. At this location, the families say, punish Hamas, but before that, bring our children home.
Music, laughter, dance, and a fest full of friends and companions. The night of October 6th at the Nova Music Fest in Israel's Remi Kibbutz was filled with fervor. But moments later, all the frolic and liveliness came to a brutal end. Savagery, fear, and death stalking the nearly 3,000 concert goers. Heavily armed Hamas terrorists invaded from Gaza Strip and started slaughtering innocent young party goers. Many fled to the nearby bushes and deserts but were butchered by Hamas. Dozens other, including women, were raped, brutalized, and taken hostage by Hamas terrorists. Now, days on, India Today reached the deserted Nova Music Fest venue at Remi Kibbutz to find painful relics of the massacre, which claimed 300 lives, including those from Israel and abroad.
This is the site of the Nova Music Festival, the RIM Music Festival, and this is where Hamas terrorists landed on hang gliders, came in automobiles and massacred 260 innocent people who were here for an evening of music. Look all around this place. When you look around this place, you there. The camping site. This is where people were listening to music. Soldiers of the Israeli army are still clearing this area.
Israeli security personnel vowed to hunt the Music Fest butchers and make them pay the price of butchering innocents.
We have now 199 accounted hostages in Gaza. And as we believe in the sanctity of life, we believe doing everything we can in bringing back them in the safest way. And we are ready for whatever action is needed in order to do that, to bring them safely and to return the safety to the state of Israel and its people.
The pain for Israel is compounded by the fact that Hamas still has dozens of hostages seized from the music fest. How long before the deep wounds of the attack will heal? With Gaurav Sawant in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
This war between Israel and Hamas terror has actually turned into a battleground, and battleground not just on ground zero here, but also at various universities in the United States of America, where pro-Palestine protesters have come out in the open and they're attacking young Jewish students and they're attacking their right to speak up against Hamas terror. Such is the outrage at several universities that donors are now pulling the plug. They're pulling the plug thousands and lakhs of dollars that were donated to these universities. It could be Columbia, it could be Harvard, but now the plug is being pulled from the funding at these universities. You can't claim money from the donors here and then become a voice for Hamas terror. That's the buzz, not just there, but also here on Ground Zero.
The world's top universities have turned into battlegrounds as the Israel-Hamas war escalates. This was a pro-Palestine protest that took place at the Harvard campus on 15th October. It came a week after a statement from 30 Harvard student groups that held Israel entirely responsible for the massacre of civilians in Israel on 7th October. The statement made no mention of Hamas or the terror it unleashed. At other university campuses too, pro-Palestine protests were organized. But the refusal to condemn terrorism and anti-Semitism is now drawing sharp backlash. Lawrence Summers, former Treasury Secretary to Bill Clinton and advisor to Obama's, and a former Harvard University president, was one of the first to publicly blast the Ivy League school's administration over a lack of response and said that the institution had never been as disillusioned and alienated. Billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman took to social media and called for signatory names to be released and not hire them in future. Interestingly, he received support from other business honchos. Israeli billionaire Idan Ofer and his wife Batia led the donation protest and quit Harvard executive board. With a fortune of $20 billion, he was one of the biggest names to step back. In the latest fallout, former Victoria's Secret billionaire Leslie Wexner and his wife Abigail's non-profit, the Wexner Foundation, ended their relationship and financial support to Harvard, saying that they were stunned and sickened. Kenneth Griffin, who donated more than $500 million to Harvard, committing $300 million this year alone, also placed a direct call to the university head to condemn Hamas, calling the delay unforgivable. Not just the UK, but 3 major donors pulled back funding to the University of Pennsylvania for a platform to anti-Semitic speakers. Apollo CEO Mark Rowan, who had donated $50 million in 2018 to Wharton School, said he will now donate only $1 in protest. David Megerman, a Jewish billionaire, had donated $5 million, but now said he was deeply ashamed with the association for giving platform to alleged hate speech. Not just powerful voices, top US law firms also have taken action. Davis Polk announced it will revoke letters of employment for 3 law students at Harvard and Columbia universities who signed on controversial statements, while Winston and Strawn rescinded their letter of employment to an intern for inflammatory comments. The billionaire backlash is unprecedented and it's the world's elite colleges that are paying the price. Bureau Report, India Today.
Palestinian supermodel Gigi Hadid is in the eye of a storm over her statements on social media platforms. While she's condemned Israel for the attack, there are many on social media who ask, why are celebrities or self-styled celebrities silent on the attack that took place on Israel when 1,400 people were massacred in Israel? Why was there silence one side and so much is being made out on the other side? Whether some of it may be half-truths or in some instances absolute lies, we bring you this report on a war that's actually being fought on social media. There's a war that's being fought on ground and there's a war that's being fought on social media. The information warfare, we bring you more in this report.
Supermodel Gigi Hadid has come under fire from Israel government. The 28-year-old's pro-Palestine post has ruffled feathers and led to an unlikely face-off between the popular model and Israeli authorities. So what did Gigi post that triggered a sharp retort from the Israeli government? Gigi, a person of Palestinian origin, has been vocal for the last many years in her support for the Palestinian cause. Taking to Instagram, Gigi shared a story saying, and we quote, "There's nothing Jewish about the Israeli government's treatment of Palestinians. Condemning the Israeli government is not anti-Semitic, and supporting Palestinians is not supporting Hamas." This post did not go down well with the Israeli government, who then tagged Gigi and posted a slew of graphic images and videos to ask her one question: have you been sleeping? Sharing their response in exactly the same graphic as Gigi, the Israeli government said, "There's nothing valiant about Hamas's massacre of Israelis. Condemning Hamas for what it is, ISIS, is not anti-Palestine, and supporting Israelis in their fight against barbaric terrorists is the right thing to do." And the government didn't stop there. They shared a slew of graphic images of a room covered in blood and children's toys left bloodied, with a clear message to Gigi saying, "If you don't condemn this, your words mean nothing." While the supermodel since hasn't responded or posted any fresh reaction to the Israel government's retort, her stand on the Israel-Hamas war is clear, as her Insta story comes days after a detailed post in which she made it clear that being pro-Palestine does not make a person anti-Semitic. Celebrities and influencers are now doing a tightrope walk amid the Israel-Hamas conflict, and the Hadid sisters, who are half Palestinian, are facing fire from Israelis. Bureau Report, India Today.
The campaign here continues to bring Israelis back, the 200 hostages back from Hamas custody. Of course, Hamas, through its interlocutors, claim they have at least 250 Israelis, but there is information that they have at least 199. While they claimed 22 had been killed. Hamas claimed 22 had been killed in an Israeli airstrike. The Israeli army has made one thing very clear: Hamas is responsible for every death in their custody. We will continue to track that story very closely, but that is all I have for you on this India Today special broadcast that comes to you from Tel Aviv in Israel. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company.
We're at the Nova Music Festival site in Rim, and with me is Colonel Shefler. Colonel Amnon Shefler is the spokesperson of the Israeli military. Sir, explain to us the dangers that Israel faces, the danger that Israel faced here on the 7th of October and the situation today.
On the 7th of October, we saw a mass invasion into Israel by the terrorists that came from Gaza. They were from Hamas organization and they were from the Islamic Jihad. They came with the goal of murdering and killing as much as they can and abducting them back into Gaza. Sadly, here at this location, they were successful in doing it in the most horrific way. 3,000 people were partying. 3,000 celebrating life, music, love. And over 300 were murdered here in this location. They did this by coming in on this road, on that road, with pickup trucks like Lexus, with motorcycles, with paragliders, with automatic rifles, shooting anyone that was just standing in the way. And then they continued. They gathered people together and shot them. They put them in containers and burned them. They shot the bathroom stalls. And they acted in the most horrific and heinous way.
And that threat remains even today.
This threat has been for many, many years. We must understand, Hamas is a genocidal organization that in its charter is calling for the annihilation of the state of Israel and of the Jewish people. Sadly, they were able to carry out their agenda on the 7th of October and continuously try to do that. As you and I, we just suffered here a barrage of rockets. This is how they are looking to kill civilians. They have fired over 6,000 rockets at Israelis in the last 10 days. But the sad thing is, this is their sick way to kill civilians, Israelis and Palestinians.
– 21-year-old French-Israeli by nationality. Mia Shem disappeared from the music festival where 260 people were killed when it came under Hamas attack on October 7th. Nine days later, the Palestinian militant group released her 60-second video. In the footage, an unidentified worker is seen treating Shem's injured arm. In another clip broadcast on Hamas's Telegram channel, Shem speaks directly to the camera in Hebrew. She says she's in Gaza, that she's being looked after. Her arm was operated on for 3 hours at a hospital, and that she wants to go home. Her mother shared her anguish and issued a fervent appeal for her release.
I'm begging the world to bring my baby back home. This is a crime against humanity, and we should all gather and stop this terror and bring everybody back home.
In a separate communication, Hamas claimed to be holding 200 to 250 people as hostages in Gaza. In his televised statement, a Hamas spokesperson said the non-Israeli captive will be released when conditions are ripe. According to the militant group, at least 22 hostages have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza.
Say, Bismillah.
With Hamas showing their capability in asymmetric warfare and avoiding digital trail in their communications, Israel is faced with what probably is the toughest hostage crisis. It has a mixed recording in dealing with such situations.
RPG!
كيف قطعته من البحر؟
זה לכם ברור, זה לא חברון וזה לא שכם.
Welcome to Gaza.
Fodder or chaos? These were not scenes from a movie, but an unprecedented terror attack, unfolding real time in Israel on October 7th. As Israel and its army scrambled to contain Hamas terrorists, As rockets flew overhead, Leo Raz was seen taking cover behind a wall in this video. The video is an eerie callback to Leo's on-screen role as Doron in Fauda, a commander with the undercover unit of the Israel Special Forces. Having served with the Israel Defense Forces for 23 years, Leo drew on his own experiences to create an authentic, hard-hitting portrayal of the conflict. Fans of the actor drew parallels between the ongoing war and Fauda, with many hailing Lior as a real-life hero. Actor Edan Amedi, who played Sagi Zur in the series, has also joined the Israel Defense Force.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the Business Today show with me, Sakshi Patra. First up, the top news we're tracking for you tonight. A 23-day-long wedding season expected to add 4.25 lakh crore rupees to the GDP. Traders' body claims more than 35 lakh weddings in the season beginning the 23rd of November. Bombing of a hospital in Gaza spreads jitters across global markets. Benchmark indices wilt under selling pressure. Investors left poorer by almost 2.5 lakh crore rupees. Contempt notice by the Supreme Court for a bench of the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal for defying its orders in a case involving Orbit Electricals and Finolex cables. Apex Court says it has serious doubt about the honesty of the tribunal members. Akasa Air is set for a mega triple-digit aircraft order. Plans to raise $400 million to fund the purchase. Co-founder and CEO tells Business Today Television how the airline is tiding over various challenges. Orient Cement rallies more than 8% in trade today after reports that its promoter, the CK Birla Group, is in talks with the Adani Group to sell the company. Officials deny any such talks. And straight on to the top story tonight. It's get, set, go for the greatest ever Indian wedding season till date. With life returning to normal with a vengeance after the years of COVID-19 and uncertainty, Indians are expected to splurge on Band Baja Barat season beginning next month. According to an estimate, this wedding season could contribute as much as 2.5% to this year's GDP.
It is a short period of just 23 days, beginning 23rd of November and ending 15th of December. But its impact on the economy is nothing short of explosive. The busy lanes of Chandni Chowk in Delhi are even more congested these days. Shoppers from around the country have converged to the centuries-old area for the latest and the best deals that can wrangle from the thousands of shops catering to the wedding market. According to the Confederation of All India Traders, 4.25 lakh crore rupees will flow into the economy during this 23-day wedding season. Last year, 3.75 lakh crore had been spent. Traders expect 35 lakh weddings this season, up from 32 lakh last year. Delhi alone is expected to host more than 3.5 lakh weddings, which are likely to generate a business of about 1 lakh crore rupees, according to the Confederation of All India Traders. Around 50,000 weddings will have a budget of 1 crore rupees or more. A similar number will have a budget of 50 lakh to a crore. 6 lakh weddings are expected to cost 25 to 50 lakh rupees. Around 28 lakh weddings will have a budget of 25 lakh rupees or less. A large amount of this goes in the repair and painting the houses. Apart from this, the other big expenses are house decor, jewelry, saris, lehenga and other garments and footwear, wedding and greeting cards, food and beverages, the venue including dry fruits and sweets, gift items and entertainment. The season also generates big revenues for banquet halls, hotels and community centers. Services like tent decorators, florists, caterers, travel agents and cabs, musical bands and lighting services also depend on this season. As for the most auspicious dates, there are 5 days in November and 6 days in December. All days you should probably avoid going out. After these, the star sets for a month till mid-January, and then a fresh wedding season starts again, which lasts till July. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
And in a big move, all international transactions of 50,000 rupees and more will now be subject to a closer scrutiny by the government. In its latest bid to prevent terror financing and money laundering, a report entity also will have to identify clients, verify their identity and also the purpose of the transactions. My colleague Karishma Sudani now joins in with more on this. Karishma, tell us, how does this really impact individuals and businesses dealing with overseas transactions on a regular basis?
Well, right, Sakshi, let's try and understand what the centre's new amendment of capping, in fact, further scrutiny on the 50,000 remittances international transaction cap that they have created can impact consumer. We had the opportunity to talk to a government official on this, and sources in the finance ministry shared with us that this has been, of course, done in order to keep a strong check and scrutiny of terror funding and any dubious financial transactions. But when government says scrutiny, it could clearly mean a stronger KYC check could be done, where banks and regulators could also call in the customer who's receiving this money or sending this money to submit his or her original documentation. In fact, if the foreign remittance or the international transaction is for a business purpose, then registration of the company could be checked, verified in order to see the validity. And if it is for an individual, then the purpose and declaration will of course be asked. You know, the basic process right now is that when a person receives foreign remittance, then they are to submit to a bank a special code or the reason and declaration of what is this money for. So this could further see a more serious check and vigilance by the banks and regulators.
Well, thanks a lot, Karishma, for all of those details. And now let's take a look at how the markets performed in today's trade. Stock market indices were pulled down by finance and bank stocks in today's trade, with quarterly earnings and the Middle East tension remaining the key driving force. Oil rallied as a deadly explosion at a Gaza hospital boosted tensions in the Middle East before President Joe Biden's arrival in the region. Investors are concerned about yet another hike by the US Fed. Markets closed 1% down in trade, with the Sensex shedding about 550 points and settling the trade at 65,877. Meanwhile, the Nifty closed down in the red, 140 points lower, to settle the trade at 19,671. The top Nifty gainers in today's trading session were some of the pharma majors like Cipla, Dr. Reddy's, Tata Motors, Sun Pharma and Cipla and the SBI Life, while the top laggards included some of the banking and the finance names such as the Bajaj Twins, which included both Bajaj Finance and Bajaj Finserv, NTPC, HDFC Bank and also Reliance Industries. And Happiest Mind Technologies remained in the red all day today after it halved its revenue growth guidance to 12% from 25% earlier. The company, founded by Ashok Soota in 2011, reported a 1.6% drop in Q2 net profits and a 14% rise in the revenues. In conversation with Business Today Television's managing editor, Siddharth Zarabi, the company's top management talked about the pending acquisitions and also a slowdown in the market.
Profitability is a bit down. What dented profitability in the quarter under review?
On the profitability front, we are within the guidance target of 22 to 24% on EBITDA. And we have also corrected, or we have updated our guidance, revenue guidance, because we have given a guidance of 25% for the year, there was no distinction called out between organic and inorganic growth, because we had a couple of good names, one large name in the pipeline, in which we are seeing some delays in that acquisition. So we have come back to the markets to correct the guidance for the next quarter, and we have now said that on an organic basis we'll go 12% for the rest of the year. And if we should go ahead and do any of the acquisitions that we are pursuing, growth that will come out will be on top of the 12% that we are currently guiding the markets for. So maybe parts of these have not been taken too kindly, and which is why you're seeing the stock under pressure. But when they do see, when the markets do see that we are here building a fundamentally strong company and committed to that $1 billion aspirational target that we have set up for ourselves by 2031, I'm sure things will change.
And in a season where most IT companies have dialed back on hiring for obvious reasons, and there's also been a spate of layoffs in the wider tech segment, you seem to be amongst the only few companies which have had a net addition as far as the workforce is concerned. The number may be small, but in these times perhaps is indicative of how things are. 237. Your thoughts on what's happening on the HR front?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We are one of the very few companies to show a net headcount addition. It also shows that when we gave out the commitment to the campus joiners, we made sure that we honored them, and that's one reason. But more importantly, while it has affected utilization, our utilization was upwards of 79% the whole of last year. It has retracted or retraced down to 75 to 76% this quarter. We have still gone ahead and done what we had to do, because like I mentioned, this is a foundation for building a larger, capable organization, and did not want to take any of these immediate shortcuts which could give you immediate dividends for the quarter, but would not add in terms of what we're trying to do in the longer term.
Staying with the earnings then, Syngene International shares dropped the most in 4 years after it cut its full-year growth guidance due to a slowdown in the US-based biotech segment. However, in a conversation I had earlier today, the company's MD and CEO Jonathan Hunt remained confident about the long-term fundamentals and growth.
I think it's a temporary slowdown in the US biotech as those companies adjust to a new funding environment. You've got leading and lagging indicators to look at. If you look at the rate of new capital going into US biotech, they're already through the dip, and it's starting to stabilize. That then will flow through into company formations, them starting to rehire employees, and then those employees start to drive their businesses forward with expenditure. So I think you start to see it stabilizing, and I think a more positive environment maybe as soon as the end of this year, the beginning of the next financial year. So it's a blip, and I think a temporary phenomenon is what I would view at the moment. As for the impact on Syngene, a little bit of softening in the growth rate, but we're still talking about some pretty good growth on a full year basis. So on a constant currency basis, we just softened it a little bit from high teens to mid-teens. Mid-teens is still a gain share strategy, I think, in terms of performance. So we're outgrowing the industry and many of our competitors. So I'm reasonably happy with it. I think in the second half, it'll be a bit V-shaped. Most of that impact will be in the third quarter, and actually the fourth quarter